Hello there. My topic is the power of democracy. When we think of democracy, we often associate ancient Greece. We think of the Parthenon, the writings of Plato and Aristotle, and other notions related to the Greek city-state, etc. I have chosen a different approach from a different place and time that will help explain the origins of democracy and bring out more conversation of its power. I will draw from stories of the Bible and focus on the tribes of Israel as well as the Jewish Messiah in order to make my point of how democracy spread throughout the world. In the book of Genesis, God made a covenant with Abraham, promising him a land unto his people. As Abraham traveled, he fathered Isaac. Isaac gave birth to Jacob. Jacob was the first person to travel into this promised land. At that point, his name was transformed into Israel. Jacob gave birth to 12 sons. Jacob provided a birthright blessing to each one of his 12 sons as he was passing away. These blessings became the foundation for the very destinies of these sons and the tribes that they were to foment in the Holy Land. Historically, looking at Israel, we see it as but a composite of these 12 tribes living together. As God enacted this plan, he had a further vision for society and his promised land. He provided a moral code. We understand it as the 10 Commandments, which he gave to the people of Israel to live by. Thus, we see Israel as exemplifying God's commandments as well as a legal system unique in history. However, it was not to last. For God dispersed the tribes of Israel and sent the northern kingdom to the far corners of the earth. It would be 2 of the tribes, Judah and Benjamin, whom God would retain for a special purpose. As we consider where those tribes went and how they manifested, it's important to focus on the tribes that remained and what came from there. The tribe of Judah remained in the land of Israel to be put through particular trials. It was prophesied that Judah would give rise to the Messiah for humanity. Thus, it was Judah's destiny to endure these trials and wait and see. As for the other tribes, they settled primarily in Europe, and there being a conversion process of these tribes at the advent of the Jewish Messiah in Israel. When Jesus of Nazareth rose and walked to Jerusalem, he proclaimed himself to be the Messiah as prophesied in the books of Isaiah and Daniel. Jesus was rejected and crucified. However, the impact of Jesus' life and his 3 years of ministry had an immediate impact in its wake. The disciples who'd followed him were paid a visit on the day of Pentecost. This was Jesus rising from the dead to proclaim that his disciples would spread his word, his story, and his life to all peoples of the world. In this, we see Jesus having performed a great alteration of the original commandments God had given. In the Acts of the Apostles, the Bible describes the apostles' mission to convert groups of the Hellenistic world and beyond to Christianity. it becomes a point of curiosity as to how these groups received Jesus' word and understood him to be the Messiah. It's the case that the groups were comprised of members of the original tribes of Israel. These tribes had lived for centuries under an expectation that eventually a Messiah in their midst would come. We may look to the future events that comprised Europe, namely forming the Bible, the Protestant Reformation, and other events. These comprised the spirit of Christianity leading to democratic trends. With these advents came democratic institutions we know today. These are based on biblical teachings. Things like the rule of law, parliament, our common law system. They went hand in hand with further advancements in our reading of the Bible and understanding of its teaching of salvation. For the groups that apprehended the Bible, I would like to close by making an important distinction that with the advent of Jesus, there was a deliverance of salvation to all people, beyond this conversation of Europe and Israel. And for that, we can understand how our democratic trends continue in that sense. Thank you.